Thank you for coming. Let's get gardening. Welcome again to my YouTube channel. My name is Dave Pruning, and this is going to be another in our series of gardening advice videos. We've done them on how to fertilize and care for your lawn, how to do container gardenings, how to attract and feed hummingbirds and care for your feeders, and a few other things. So check out our channel and you'll see a few videos on there that you may be interested in. Today's topic is going to be how to prepare and plant a bare root fruit tree. In this case, a cocktail fruit tree. There are 4 different kinds of cherries on this tree. I got an idea about doing this video when I watched another one from a nursery called Dave Wilson Nursery. And Dave Wilson Nursery has a pretty good video on how to plant a cocktail fruit tree. I'm just going to add a little bit of stuff that he didn't talk about, but I'll put a link to his video down below in the description here. So stay with us and we're going to get started right away. Here are the 4 varieties on our cherry tree. This one, the lower tag here, this orange tag, is a black Tartarian cherry. That's going to grow off of this limb. The next one up is a Royal Anne cherry in this kind of cream color label. Below that is a blue label for Lapins cherry, and above that is a green label for Stella cherry, and above that is another one for Meteor cherry. So there actually are 5 on here. And so if this tree is successful, we'll be able to get 5 different types of cherries on this one tree. A few things that you need to consider when you plant or before you plant a fruit tree, a bare root fruit tree, and especially a cocktail tree, is this. Fruit trees in this family, cherries, peaches, plums, apricots, apples, and pears, are all members of the rose family. So I guess a rose by any other name could be an apple, could be a peach, could be a cherry, or a pear. The rose family of plants tends to be one of the more disease-prone families. So you're going to have to watch your tree as long as you have it for diseases and various afflictions that could discourage the tree from doing well. So keep an eye on that. The other thing is that with these cocktail fruit trees with multiple varieties on one tree is this. One variety may tend to grow more vigorously than the others and tend to take over the tree. So you're going to have to watch that, make sure that if one variety gets too strong, starts to shade out the other limbs, then do some pruning to take care of that. We'll show you more about that here in a moment. But keep that in mind that fruit trees in the apple, pear, peach, plum, apricot family, cherry family are members of the rose family, a family that can be subjected to various kind of plant diseases. And then the cocktail tree might have a tendency for one variety to want to take over the whole tree and crowd out the other variety. So you have to keep an eye on that. The other thing about these kind of fruit trees is that birds are attracted to fruits in this family, especially cherries, peaches, and plums, and that kind of thing. The birds will want to attack your trees, or attack your fruit on your trees. So you may have to cover, or may want to cover the tree with some kind of a bird netting. That's pretty effective to prevent that. Just so you know. And but if you want to go for it, go for it. And we're here. We're going to show you how. In our case today, we're going to plant our fruit tree in this container here. I live in a condominium in the San Diego area, and we really can't be planting fruit trees in our yard. We're not supposed to plant anything. We've snuck a few things in. The garden is right there. I'll show you that in a minute. But we can't really plant this tree here. So we're going to get it planted in this container and let it get started this spring. And then we'll give it away to somebody. If you'd like it and can come and get it, send me a note and we'll let you know if it's available and when it's available. Probably sometime in, I don't know, April or May maybe, when it's leafed out. I want to see how it flowers and all that, leaves out and flowers and blossoms maybe, and then maybe even set some fruit. But there you have it. Contact me if you would like this particular tree, at no charge of course, and we'll let you know. Thank you. Our tree came from a big box garden center near my home. and it came in this plastic bag, of course, wrapped around the roots. I slit that up this morning, and I got rid of all the packing that was basically some kind of a cedar or cypress mulch to keep the roots kind of from drying out. I got rid of that. It's just actually spread in our garden right behind me here. We don't want to waste it or put it in the trash. And now we're going to take the plastic bag off. And when we slit the bag this morning at around 4 hours ago, we then and disposed of the sawdust or the mulch that was keeping the roots fresh. We then soaked it in water for 4 hours. The label here says 2 to 12 hours, so we went somewhere in the middle there. And the 4 hours should be plenty to get the roots nice, and you want to get them nice and juicy before you plant, and that's what we did. We're going to plant our bare root fruit tree, because it's in a container, in a good potting mix designed for containers. We like this particular product for most of our container gardening, and it works very well, we found. I've been using it for probably 25 years, and we like it. And it's available everywhere, and it has a little bit of fertilizer to help your plants get started, so that's why we like this product. For today's planting project, pruning is very important. We're going to have to prune both the branches above the ground and the roots that are going in the ground right here. Keep in mind too that in general you want to have as close to a 1-to-1 ratio of root size to above ground size, because too big of an above ground part of the plant will not be able to be supported by the remaining roots. So that's why we're going to prune off some of these rangy out of place roots here, and then we'll have to prune back these stems to encourage the growth. And we'll explain more about that when we do it. But for right now, so that it'll fit in the container okay, we're going to start pruning the roots right about here and here, and that's probably I'll get a couple more. This one here can be pruned, and I think that I'll get a little more of this off. This big fat one down here, that'll come off, and probably this one too. And there we go. I think we have the roots properly. There's one more kind of a twisted root here. I'm going to prune that one back, and a couple more here at the bottom, and then it'll fit in our container real well, and not be the roots won't be, crossing each other and that kind of thing. Obviously, in gardening, you can't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Well, I guess you can be afraid, but don't be afraid, because gardening is all about getting into the soil and working with the soil. And I like doing it with my bare hands usually. Sometimes I wear gloves, but not today. So we're going to start adding some soil to this container. We're going to bring the plant out and put about a 3 or 4 inch layer in the bottom first of our potting mix. And then we'll just continue to backfill above that carefully so that we don't twist the roots or crush them or cause them to get to crossing each other and be misplaced. Break up some of the clumps of soil that just came out of that bag, and they're not too bad, just a few. And let's test fit our tree into the container now. And it's still a little bit low. Add some more. Still a little bit more. We'll add some more. There we go. Let's see how that did. The soil is nice and light, and lots of drainage in it. It'll be really good for this containerized fruit tree. And probably some more. That looks about right. So let's add some more soil to the stuff that's already been put in the bottom of the container here, and we'll just backfill it the rest of the way. I'm going to pack some of that first batch of soil down a little bit around the outside. Using again my bare hands. That's my preferred method. Okay. All right, let's add some soil on top. By the way, this tree does not have a clear bud union down here above the roots. If there was one, we want to make sure that bud union was above the ground. So we're going to go more. We're just going to kind of take a stab at where the original soil line was. Looks like it was right about here. So that's what we want at the top of our soil in our container here, and we're going to add soil to that level. Okay, we got that in there. Let's go ahead and move that around inside the container and even it out a little bit. And we used up that whole first bag, and I have another bag sitting right here, so we'll get into that next. Very important to pack it down a little bit. And center the tree in the container. There we go. And at this point, we're going to switch plant stands because the one that's on now is a little bit unstable. And we're going to put it on a wider one that won't be as unstable. Make our work easier. All right, now we're ready to add more soil. Here's our second bag right here. Adding more soil, adding more soil, adding more soil. First one layer, and then we'll make sure we tamp it down a little bit. I like to go especially around just the inside wall of the container when I do this, and that works pretty good. There we go. Center the stem in the container as best we can. There we go. Pack, 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 pack. Tamp, 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 tamp. I think that's pretty good. Add some more soil. There we go. That'll do it. So we use 2 bags of that nice potting mix that we like to use. And I'm going to set it on the ground now because it's getting kind of heavy for that plant stand. And we'll zoom in on that. When I said earlier that I did not see an apparent bud union here at the bottom of the stem where it met the roots, or just above the roots, because I don't think there is one. It looks like this stem right here, up to here, is growing from those roots. That's a little bit unusual. Usually you see a rootstock and then a little bit of a stem above, then they graft on everything above that. But in this case, this stem here appears to be growing from that root down there, which is fine. That's how this nursery does it, and they obviously know what they're doing. However, these other branches, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, all the 5 companion branches were all grafted onto that original stem at my point where my fingers are right now, and that's how this tree is going to grow. You can see it was cut off right here, and that was where this original stem grew, and then it probably grew above that, or obviously grew above that, but they pruned that off. So there you have that, and that's with this particular variety of cherry. That's how they do it. And this stem here is part of the rootstock below. And in any case, if your fruit tree does have a bud union down near the ground, make sure that bud union is above the ground level. It doesn't have to be very far, but it has to be above. This, I believe we have this one properly at the proper depth, because the roots, the highest roots are just below the soil. I'm reaching them right now with my fingers. So we're right there, and looks like we have the proper soil depth in this container. Now, it's time to prune. Keep in mind that obviously the nurseries who produce these plants and the stores that sell them want you to think that you're going to be getting a really big tree right off the bat. But that's not practical. Remember what I said before. The part above ground really shouldn't be much more than a 1-to-1 ratio to the part below ground. In this case, the ratio won't be that even. But we're going to have to prune back about half of these stems to make sure that they're not more than the roots can support when the weather warms up and this thing starts to leaf out. Because if we leave these stems too long, there'll be too many leaves and the roots can't absorb enough water and nutrients to feed that. So we're going to prune these back. Now, another thing we want to keep in mind is this. One variety here is going to want to overtake this tree. In this case, it looks like it's this highest one, and that would be this meteor cherry. You can see it's the fattest stem. It's almost as thick as, well, not quite as thick as my thumb, at least as thick as one of my fingers. The other ones are a lot thinner. So this is going to be the most vigorous stem here. So we have to watch this one, make sure it doesn't take over the whole tree. It's in the highest spot, and it's in a very favorable position to take this tree over, and it probably will if we don't keep it pruned back. Other thing we want to make sure we do is look for the smallest stem, the weakest stem. And when we plant that, we want to plant that to the south. And in my home, the south is to my right. But again, this tree won't be planted here, but you want to plant let me just spin that around a little bit. You want to plant the smallest stem, or maybe the weakest stem, to the south, so it gets more light than the stems to the north of it, because those stems will want to shade this smaller one out. But by planting it to the south, toward the south, we're going to prevent that from being crowded out. And now it's time to prune this cherry tree, this meteor cherry. So I'm going to go ahead and prune it back about halfway. And in that case, starting with this stem right here, and also in pruning, prune to an outside bud. In other words, there are buds on this tree that are growing in toward the center, and the bud above that is growing to the outside. That's where we want to prune to. And so I'm going to prune this one to an outside bud right here. Okay? So we prune that one. And now we're going to go around and do the rest of them. I'm going to prune this one to an outside bud right here. Remember, that bud is on the outside, and so that bud will break and grow to the outside of the tree. We'll prune this one to, it's a little more vigorous, so I'll prune that one back just a little bit further to here. And so that's done. See how much we're taking off? We're taking off a pretty good chunk there. And then I have this one over here. There's still a tiny one. I'm going to leave that one a little bit longer, because it's the smallest, and we'll call it the weakest. It's going to have the least amount of chance of success. And here's a good outside bud on this one right here. We'll prune to there. And now this meteor cherry on top we're really going to have to hit that pretty hard. I'm going to prune it here, here. That really fat branch right there is going to want to take this tree over, so I'm going to prune it back pretty far. And then this one can just come off. I'll leave it a little bit for now. I was thinking about pruning it off all the way back to the stem, but we'll leave some of it on there. There's a good outside bud right there. Prune to that, and then we'll prune to this one here. And this is all on the meteor cherry stem, the most vigorous one on the tree. And we'll prune to there, and we'll prune to this outside bud here, and then this limb, this little small one here is going to want to cross over this one. So this one will want to cross over this one. So I'm just going to prune this one off right back to the trunk. There we go. So our tree is now, I think, pretty well pruned. As you can see, I cut off what, half and two-thirds of it. But again, the part above ground cannot be supported by the roots below ground, because the roots are relatively small and the above ground was relatively big. And so now we more or less balanced that out, and we're gonna go ahead and water this in and let it grow in 2 springs. See when it leaves out and when it blossoms. Here's another little trick that I learned in college. When you plant any kind of a tall stem tree like this, whether it's a bare root plant or a bald and burlap tree like we planted in the Midwest when I lived there, plant it so that the trunk angles or leans just a little bit to the west. In that case, that's behind me. You want to lean it just a little bit to the west, okay, like that. Why do you do that? Here's why. The prevailing winds in the continental United States always blow from the west. So if you plant your tree just a little bit of a hardly noticeable lean to the west, the prevailing winds in a little bit of time will straighten it up as the roots take and catch and grow in, and then your tree, in other words, nature will straighten your tree up and you won't have to stake it maybe. That's a pretty good way. I learned that in college. My degree is not in horticulture. My degree is in marketing from this school right here, Lewis University, a great little school, private school in Romeoville, Illinois. That's where my business, my marketing degree came from. But I did take in earlier college years at Mesa Community College in Mesa, Arizona, and at Arizona State. I took about a semester's worth of horticulture classes when I knew I was going to be getting into this business when I was a young man. So you have that. But anyways, Lewis is a great school. If you're looking for, check out Lewis University in Romeoville, Illinois. It's a great school. Anyway, so remember, plant that tree a little bit of a cant to the west, a cant meaning a lean, and then let the prevailing winds over time straighten it up. So we're pretty much done with this now. We're going to go ahead and put it over on our front patio there and water it in and just let it sit for several weeks, and we'll see what it does. These are all the branches that we pruned off of this tree right here, so that the roots below can now support the remaining part of the tree. And those will, when this thing starts to grow out, it'll grow out really fast, and we won't miss these branches. But these, when you plant a bare root fruit tree, or many times bare root roses or bare root anything, and even containerized plants, sometimes some pruning, but with this, it's always necessary. You don't skip that step. Don't not do that. Another consideration is this. With any kind of a bare root fruit tree where there is a rootstock, in this case, looks like our rootstock grows all the way up to here. We may get some buds breaking on that stem, undesirable buds breaking, and they'll want to grow maybe some branches from that, and that would be probably a sour cherry, or I don't know what it is. But we want to keep that pruned all the time. We'll have to watch if it happens. We don't know that it'll happen, but it does happen in a fair amount of fruit trees. The rootstock, or the stem in this case, will want to break some buds, and we can't have that. They're going to have to come off. So anyways, remember to prune and watch for the growth from the rootstock, the buds breaking from the rootstock, and then now we're just, all we need to do is water, and we'll be done. Thank you. I promised you that I'd show you my front garden, and here it is. This is all HOA territory out here, and they maintain and do that. We're not supposed to plant anything in there, but I sneak one in once in a while. And so far, it's been okay. Here's our newly planted fruit tree right here. We're going to leave it right there until it leaves out and gets big, or until we find somebody to come and get it. And next to that is a salvia plant. It's a little wintry, kind of needs the spring it'll burst right back out again. And I have some milkweed plants in containers right here that we use to attract monarch butterflies, and then the plants feed the larvae. But anyways, this is our front bed. We're one of the few condos here that has such a big spacious front garden in front of our house. A lot of them are upstairs units and they have no garden, but ours has this nice wide green space right outside of our front door. To finish off our fruit tree planting in this container, of course we have to water. I'm just going to use my watering can for that today. And I do have a drip irrigation system that runs through this bed, and I'll add a dripper to it here in a few weeks. It's not going to need hardly any water here at the beginning because there's no leaves on it. But we want to give it at least one good watering now, wet the soil and keep the roots nice and moist. And this watering can is all we need for that. By the way, we love your comments, and please subscribe. You can do that here on wherever you're watching. And your comments, we really love your comments. If you have any ideas or suggestions too, we'd love to hear that. But anyways, our plant is, our new containerized container plant, fruit tree is pretty much all set. And there you have it. I wanted to mention also that I also spun the container around so that the smallest, and let's call it the weakest, branch on this cherry tree is now facing toward the south, which is toward the camera from where I'm standing. And that'll give this weakest limb a chance to get more light and grow more vigorously and not be shaded out. I'm still concerned about this big, vigorous meteor cherry. It's by far, it's twice as thick, at least, in the next biggest stem on this tree. We're going to have to watch this one real close, and probably that one's going to take the most amount of pruning so it doesn't take over the whole tree. And then also, I also made sure that the stem does tilt just a smidge to the west, that way, so that the prevailing winds will tend to straighten it up over time. That's not a big deal in a container plant, but I did it just so I could, so I could practice what I preach. I mentioned earlier that I love container gardening, especially with succulents. Here's one I made late last summer, and look how nice it's filling in real nice, this window box, and it's looking just dynamite right now. It has everything from all kinds of things in here. I got some agaves and kalanchoys and all kinds of stuff. Write to me if you want to get more information about that. Here you see a straight-on view of the side of the planter with the succulents in it. And as you can see, we got quite a mix. It doesn't cost a lot, and it's really easy to do. And succulents in containers like this are really easy to care for. This is another planter that we did recently. It's a 10-inch terracotta bowl. I had most of the cactus and succulents already on my potting mix, just waiting to be installed. They've been sitting there for several months. We did recently purchase that fan-shaped grafted cactus there in the center, and the little flapjacks off to the right of that. And there again, it's really easy to do. We use the cactus, special cactus and succulent mix, soil mix when we do this. But this is really easy to do. It's a lot of fun. And if you live in a cold part of the country where it freezes, you can usually bring these in and put them in a sunny window through the wintertime and put them back outside when the weather warms up. Here in Southern California, in the San Diego area where I live, that's not a problem. They stay outdoors all year long and they really thrive. So we hope you enjoyed that. Here's another fun container project. This is a terrarium project using all cactus. I buy these bottles from a department store nearby. You can also get them online. It's there's no drainage in these, so you got to be very careful. But this is all cactus, and you can see how well it's doing. I did this one sometime last summer, and it's doing real well out here on the patio. And here's one more container plant with succulents. I planted this one, I think, last spring. And look how these plants were tiny when they went in, but this thing's filled up, it's overflowing now. Succulents are really easy to do this with. I have a video about this, it's on here on my channel, so please check that out. Thanks again for watching our video about planting bare root fruit trees. please, please, please like and subscribe. Send us any comments you have and let us know what you think. We really appreciate it, and we'll have more videos coming as the weeks and months and years go on. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Dave Pruning, and you're on my YouTube channel, my gardening videos. Thank you. Thanks for watching, and please come back real soon for more.